Hello everybody and welcome to another Grand Arena video. This is not a Grand Arena match, but 3v3 is just around the corner. It's going to be starting this week. So I wanted to do another video just talking about my thought process, how to split up my roster in 3v3 specifically. What do I keep for offense? What do I keep for defense? And a lot of the points will be similar to what I went over in 5v5. Obviously, there's way more teams that you need in 3v3 as opposed to 5v5. You need 15 teams on defense and then at least 15 on offense, basically, for 3v3 in Kyber. And in 5v5, you need 11. So you need 8 more teams total, which is quite the heavy lift. But now let's get into what I think about when going into offense, and then later I'll cover what I think about for defense. So before you get started on offense or defense, you got to decide, what do you want to prioritize? Are you an offense heavy kind of player? Are you a heavy defense kind of player? Or do you like to just tailor, switch it up all the time after you scout your opponent and just play off what they do? Scouting your opponent is always important, but for me, I am an offense first player. I want to full clear, and sadly, I don't always full clear, and it does feel like failure when I'm going for that and still can't. And even though I'm offense first, that doesn't mean I put a flimsy defense. I get plenty of holds on defense, but usually I'm just taking more Galactic Legends on offense. But what you want to do, no matter what, is scout your opponent on swgoh.gg, see their GAC history. And even though it's not a guaranteed thing that they're going to set the same teams, you can tell over time with all players there's a pattern or a proclivity to set certain Galactic Legends, certain teams. Maybe they don't like taking them on offense. So you can determine what has a high chance of being set, what has a medium chance, or what they usually like to keep for offense. At the beginning of the season, it's a little bit more dicey because you got to go back a full extra season to see their last 3v3. But after 1 week of 3v3, it's easier to figure out. So once you do that, you need to decide how to counter those teams you're likely to face. You can just be safe and take 5 or even 6 Galactic Legends on offense. If you're in Kyber 1, if you're lower, the scouting is probably more important when you're lower as far as Galactic Legends to see, okay, they got 4, I have 3, I should probably take all 3 maybe. To handle them, and maybe I have an off-meta counter, but off-meta counters are definitely harder in 3v3. That's why Galactic Legends on offense are pretty important, unless you're just going for a Stonewall approach. So figure out what you're likely to face, and then look at what counters there are for those teams, and then definitely keep those for offense. Don't even consider them for defense. And then you want to determine which Galactic Legends, even if you don't think you'll need them, for a specific counter, what are they not going to hold? Are they not going to hold well? Like Sith Eternal Emperor right now, he doesn't have his level 9 Datacron anymore, so he's mainly on offense again. I saw plenty of Sith Eternal on defense this past season, because in 5v5 he could get like a full 80% ultimate charge at the beginning, but that's no longer an option. So Sith Eternal Emperor is an example of a Galactic Legend you probably want to take on offense, even if you don't think you'll need it for a specific counter. Next, you want to determine what other teams are just kind of classic offense teams. You're going to get high banners, but they're easy to pick apart on defense. Bad Batch is a clear example. I'd argue Iden Versio is an example. She's great on offense, but she's easy to counter on defense. With Wampa, she's just Wamper fodder, and you're not always going to see a team you can take out with just Wampa, so if someone sees a Mon Mothma or Iden Versio, they're definitely going to go right at it. And then if you prefer heavy offense, bring extra Galactic Legends, even if you don't have a counter in mind, or they might hold well. And this is just kind of safe. This is a safer approach. Like for me, I basically just like to set Lord Vader at this point with his Datacron, because he has demonstrated the ability to get holds across the entire game. Best hold rate in the game right now with his Datacron. But bring in all the other Galactic Legends is my approach. I just want to be safe and make sure I have something to handle those opponents that set all their Galactic Legends. Next, we look at defense. And even though I'm an offensive player, defense, I will acknowledge, has the higher ceiling for a team. On offense, you can only get 1 win with a team, but on defense, you can get several wins and even prevent an opponent from advancing, and that has the highest banner value you could think of in GAC. But my first piece of advice is you want to craft some unconventional teams that aren't super popular. Maybe they don't show up on swgoh.gg in GAC history for counters. So your opponent will have to figure it out on his own and then maybe underestimate it. Put stuff like that on the front and bottom, because on the front and bottom wall, they don't want to bring everything. They want to try to get through with as little as possible. So that's where I'd put those tricky teams. And then also, scouting your opponent, you might notice that they have a problem with a certain team. Maybe they haven't figured out Lord Vader, how to deal with that. So you can put that in the front. I'm putting mine in the back because I think most people are expecting him to be front. So maybe they'll see he's not there, assume they don't need to fight a Lord Vader, and then not be ready for him in the back. And that goes along with my next point, which is setting hard teams that are hard to deal with in the back, even if they're well known, which is Lord Vader. So by the time they get to the back, they have less available to them than they did at the start. So there's a better chance that that will just get a hold indefinitely, and they won't be able to get by it. Next, you want to set some strong teams that might have just lower banner potential or protection recoveries, so you're not going to get high banners with them, but they are strong. For me, the best instance of this is Gas and Darth Malgus. They're very strong, hard to deal with. Even if you know about them, you know you're going to face them, you got to plan for them, and sometimes it's just hard no matter what. And they don't necessarily get great banners. Maybe Malgus does, I don't know. He's just been such a staple on defense that I've never even tried him on offense in Green Arena yet. But those teams you want to set, and those I set more on the top wall in the front. So they see them, they know they have to deal with them, but they still got to get through that bottom wall. And then also strong teams you aren't sure how to use offensively or can steal banners. Like for me, you'll see a Boba Fett team, which with Dengar and Zam, which will be fast, and it'll steal a lot of banners because of AoEs and thermal detonators and stuff like that. And also I'm still putting Savage Oppress on defense under Maul, or Darth Maul, because I'm just not sure what the best use for him is on offense, and I already have plenty of other offensive teams that I'm using. And then lastly, if you are a heavy defensive player, you might want to kind of circumvent all the other stuff I've said and just make your bottom wall the hardest wall you possibly can to make sure that they won't get through that no matter what. And then you just plan to clear that top wall, get through to ships, and hopefully take out most of their bottom wall. If you can clear, even better. In 3v3, it's harder to do off-meta counters against Galactic Legends, but if you can do that, then great. If you figured those out, then you can account for that, but placing a lot of Galactic Legends on defense on the front wall is probably the best bet if you're trying to go full defense.
Hello there.
Like and subscribe.
Next to look at my defense, instead of just going to my squad tab, I'm just going to jump into my different zones so you just see where I have them. So up here we got Qui-Gon Jinn team, and one of the key things about 3v3 that I didn't really talk about in detail in my defensive tips is whatever 5v5 team you have, you're going to lose two. So you want to lose either the two unnecessary characters, or you want to split off extra leaders or strong characters where you could build two strong teams out of it. So for Qui-Gon Jinn, the other two are kind of optional, whatever you have, it just depends. But for me, the core, and I think for most people, the core is Qui-Gon Jinn, Jedi Knight Anakin, and Ki-Adi-Mundi. They're going to hit like a truck, especially when Qui-Gon dies. It's hard to deal with, and that's just the best Qui-Gon team you have for threes. As far as the CLS team, I took Han and Chewie away, put them with Dash. In fives, I'm using Dash to take out Lord Vader, but in threes, I don't think that's an option. And I do have the bonus turn Datacron here. I'm not going to click on all my Datacrons. But I think this is the hardest team to deal with Han and Chewie, and it also frees up CLS to put him on another team. Here is a team where I think, people will have to guess at it. It's not a common team. You got Padme, Mace, and Ahsoka, and they can deal plenty of damage through the courage that Padme gives out, and they're decently strong, but they're not super strong, and it's going to be tempting for people to try and really underman it, just take a weaker team. But I think this is great to stop like Malik solos because of Mace. He's gonna do Shatterpoint and weaken Malik over time, so eventually he's just going to crumble. But there's just a decent team that might trip people up. This sortie, it's not useful on offense, and the two I took away from the 5v5 team are BB-8 and R2. I think I can get used with them either under Jedi Training Ray or probably mainly that if I can, or I could use R2 with Galactic Legend Ray or Jedi Master Kenobi to hide. But these three have the biggest damage potential. They all have AoEs. T3 really juices up the team or offensively, and then IG-88 has the AoE ability block. Shorty hits pretty hard and is pretty tanky. And then Radis is one of my favorite defensive front wall teams right now. It's just easy to underestimate him, especially for mine. His speed is really high, relatively 361, and he's pretty tanky, almost 100k both health and protection, and you have to kill him before Jin. So I ended up getting a lot of holds with Radis. He's just a very tough team. And next I'm going to look at my top wall, my front wall on the top. And this is where I put teams that I just want to show to my opponent so they know, okay, I got to deal with that. I can't use X, Y, or Z team on the bottom to get through. So people see Malgus, they know they need to save something for him. They see Gas, they know they need something to save for him. I'm working on what Datacron I want for him right now. I want good stats, maybe armor or protection or potency, I'm not sure. And this is a banner stealing team. It's like, you see that it's not anything you have to contend with. But I'd rather put it there than the back wall. This team, it was way better with the turn meter reduction Datacron, or turn meter gain boost Datacron from set 2. It's still decent. I don't like to not use the resistant hero bros, so they work well under Finn. They're going to do some good damage, and RH Finn's pretty fast. Imperial Troopers is kind of a weird one. I have a Grit Datacron that makes them more durable, and they're very fast. It's just something you have to deal with. And you can get caught off guard. I have gotten holds with Imperial Troopers. Grit makes them a little bit more survivable, although it doesn't make Dark Troopers survivable. So this is something I might reevaluate eventually, but right now, that's what I have for this setup. So now onto the back wall. And the cornerstone of my defense is Lord Vader on the back wall. I'm going to put him no matter what. I don't know if I should use Royal Guard or Thrawn. I'll have to look later to see what works better as far as the data. But you definitely want Maul with him if you have him. I put him on the back, hopefully, because someone will waste a key unit on the front, because I don't think I have Lord Vader. And then they won't be able to clear that. I got General Grievous because in 3s, I'm hoping to get some high health Datacrons from set 5 to put on him to make him kind of tricky to handle. But he could be easy Wampa fodder, but I think people will probably use Wampa or try it on my sortie team up front, so I don't think they'll have that available. Here I got Bam with IG-11, and I don't have Queel yet, so I put Nest. I'm not sure how well this team's going to do. I'm not sure if I should still keep Bam on offense for hopefully a solo Lord Vader cleanup, but I don't know if he works particularly well without his cooldown reduction Datacron, and I don't want him to sit on the bench. And then up top we got that Darth Maul Savage Press team I was talking about, with Count Dooku as well, and this is a strong team. I wouldn't be sure how to handle it. I think people will use Bad Batch on the front, so they won't have it for this, which would be a perfect counter, by the way. But they got the turn meter for his special ability, got some great stats, lots of health, lots of crit damage, and decent protection. So they're going to end up hitting pretty hard. So I think that team will actually catch a lot of people. And then CLS, it's vulnerable to Iden Versio, but it's still a strong team, and I don't think it's something I want on offense, but it is strong, so I do want to set it, and maybe take Iden Versio away as an option for the front walls. And I didn't do a big thing about ships. If you want to see the breakdown for ship splitting, you can go to my 5v5 GAC split video. But right now I'm setting Executor, Negotiator, and Radis. Because Radis isn't that great on offense. I have kept Profundity, and worst case scenario, I run into Profundity and Executor. and I try to do Profundity Mirror and the First Order counter for Executor, and then Malevolence for whatever the third fleet is, and Malevolence can usually handle anything else. So that is my full defense, and now time to look at the offense. Now here we are in my 3v3 team offensive tab, where I have all the teams I'm going to be using probably. Now I do choose my offensive teams first, and then set my defense based on whatever's left over. This I named Lord Vader Duty. It didn't really work out in 5s using Supreme Leader Kylo. I had to switch things up. But last 3v3 season, I did have some good luck with Kylo. And with Datacron specifically for him, it should help a little bit better, and he has better stats that are more conducive to a counter of Lord Vader. So that's what his job is this round. Next I got Rey. She's going back to Malgus duty after working on Lord Vader duty for 5v5 at the end. But I figure Ben Sol is the best put with her. Maybe you could try some cheese with this guy, otherwise with Jedi Training Rey, and I might do that, I don't know. And then Holo just to act as a tank. They usually have no problem with Malgus, and without Malgus's Datacron, it should be even easier. And then right now, I figure I will probably need Jedi Master Luke to handle Rey's now. Basically take out the third character other than Ben Swallow, and then work around those two as best you can. This team's pretty survivable. That's why I have Jedi Knight Luke, and Hoda is pretty durable. He's got some good hit points and heals a lot, and they can cycle around turns pretty well. If the Rey has good dodge, this gets around that as well, because when you use that special attack with Jedi Master Luke, your character's actual weak attack will be dodged, and then the true damage will not be dodged. So I figure I'll probably need him for Rey. I don't think Starkiller will work necessarily against Rey and Ben Swallow, so I'll probably be using that there. On Jedi Master Kenobi, I see using this either for a mirror or Jabba. Jabba is something I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to handle. I basically am hoping right now that if my opponent has Jabba, they're not going to set all 7 Galactic Legends, and I will have some left over to deal with him. But I think Starkiller might have a chance as well, so I don't know, we'll see. And then Sith Eternal and Friends, it depends if I have armor or not. I don't know if I'm going to use armor with SLKR, it just depends on the opponent. But if I have armor available, he'll go with Sith Eternal, and then probably a tank. If I don't have armor, I'll probably use Sidious, but I can also see using C to take out gas teams all on his own, especially if I face opponents with super high armor for gas. This is probably just the way to go for that. And then I named this team Jump Loop Starkiller because I do have another cooldown reduction Datacron to use with them, and Mara J can just keep going. It's not as quite an infinite loop in 3v3, but you can just keep going for a while because she has 2 AoEs that do debuff, so you can just cycle back and forth. So that'll be a fun team to use. I don't want to put it on defense because I think it's easily countered by Sith Empire without Malgus. I got Iden. She's there to take out CLS, and I actually don't want Stormtrooper here. I want Range Trooper. And there we go, all fixed, much better. This team has way more damage to get through Mon Mothma teams in 3s. I had a catastrophe last season where I actually lost. I think it's Mon Mothma, but it wouldn't have happened if I used range. So there you go for him. Darth Vader, he could do a lot of stuff. I will have Moff Gideon available, and I just like to have a pre-taunting tank there, so Short Trooper works well for that, since he doesn't have to go with Iden. I'm not sure what I'll take with this. I don't know if it'll work against Jabba. It just depends on the lineup, what they have, if I could get in for a loop. But I don't have the Datacron where it comes back and revives, so that limits my potential with him. But either way, he's definitely an offensive character, not a defensive character, because you need to be really selective with what you're attacking. And then First Order, this could go on either defense or offense. Right now I'm using it for offense because it's one of the teams that can get over 400 speed. I think it's very useful to take out like a TIE Fighter pilot if they have that the bonus turn Datacron. You can knock him out before he even gets 1 turn. So that's why I keep it on offense. I could switch it to defense though. And then we Sith here. These are basically great for dash. Even with the bonus turn, dash, because it's not relying on them taking a ton of turns, dash eventually just weakens this whole team. I've won against Dash, Han, and Chewie with it, although that is a bit more dicey. But definitely an offensive team, not defense. Even though I use them on defense when I could use Savage at 5s for 3s, definitely offense. Next we got the Sith Empire, the original Sith Empire trio, Darth Revan, Bastila, and Malak. This is great for Starkiller because a lot of people are setting Starkiller with the cooldown reduction datacron, and that makes that team worse against this team because they're not going to get stunned, they don't lose turn meter, and then they're not calling assists on Starkiller with Mara Jade and Palpatine Basic. So they end up doing quite well against that, and otherwise it's just a very strong team. It could be a defensive team. I could see switching it to that eventually if I am just using too much overkill or scout my opponent and they won't have a stiff defense. But they're good either way. Jedi Knight Revan with Yoda and Jolie, definitely an offensive team. Can take out pretty much any lower tier defensive team. Not gonna be a world beater like being Galactic Legends or anything, but solid team. Definitely one on offense, not defense. And sometimes Jedi Knight Revan goes with Jedi Master Luke if they need to punch up, but it just depends. Of course, Bad Batch, classic offensive team. Don't want to put them on defense. And then this is... it says he's not available. I need to check. I might still have him set with Grievous. But you need this team in case you're facing a Qui-Gon Jinn team and you don't have any good stuff or super fast stuff left. Because this team basically they're all cockroaches. Django is immune to damage in the beginning. Nuke comes back at least once. So does Django even after damage immunity. And then B2 or B1 is only taking 8 stacks of damage no matter how hard they hit. Even if Anakin does 1,000,000 damage, he only loses 1 stack. So this is a low banner option to take out Qui-Gon Jinn teams in one go. And then Wampa, of course, classic offense character. You can't really use him on defense, but you might not get a chance to use him. I call this my backup clones. They're good for cleanup and weaker teams, but I'm not really trusting them against anything specifically. And then down here, I'm not sure which bounty hunter lineup to use, whether I want to start Fennec or if I'm trying to clean up Lord Vader, I definitely would use Fennec. I might end up keeping Bam on offense. But if it's not Lord Vader, I prefer the boss Grief Mando because it's pretty clean. You're recovering banners, you're getting an Annihilate, and it's just super solid. But that's all my teams. I got some leftovers like Geos, Mon Mothma, which would be more cleanup teams, not first attack teams. But yeah, that's it. So that's it. Those are the teams I'm planning on using. I'll definitely be switching them up from time to time. Maybe one match to the next or 1 week to the next, depending on what comes out, what data develops, and what teams start getting easy counters. But thanks for watching this far. Let me know what you think. Are you ready for 3v3? Do you miss 5v5? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks and have a good one.